Hey y'all, it's your girl Melissa here. Welcome back to my channel at M.Falconer Studios. And today I'm going to be showing y'all how I make my art prints. So this is my studio, guys. It's very cozy, you know, not too big, not too small. I love it. I just moved in here like a couple months ago. Yeah, so I've got right here this painting that I want to turn into a print, basically. So this is the painting. Hey. Y'all can get a close-up look at all the details in this piece, the texture and stuff. And then it's hand signed right there, you know what it is. If this painting looks familiar to you guys, that's because I uploaded a time-lapse video of this. If you haven't seen that, please check it out right here or in the link in the description below. But yeah, you guys saw me make this and I did a cool little photo shoot with it. A lot of people liked it, so that's why I'm gonna make it into a print. So before anything, the first thing I'm gonna do is just kind of dust this painting off and make sure there's like no particles or anything on it, you know. Just gonna use this really wide brush here and then just kind of like get any loose particles that were sitting on this should be gone, but there shouldn't be any because I had it in a plastic bag anyways, so this is like just in case. So this is the process right here. I wrote it all out for you guys on my handy dandy whiteboard. So how to make an art print. The first thing we're gonna do is photograph the artwork. Then once you get a nice picture, we're gonna edit the image and then order our sample. So let's go. Okay, so as y'all can see, I've moved the painting right outside my studio. My studio corner is like right there. And as you can see, this part of the studio has amazing natural lighting. It has more of a white light, and the ceilings have amazing skylights. So natural light is best when photographing artwork. So I've just let the canvas hang flat against the wall. It's just hanging on these like thumbtacks. And basically I'm just gonna set my tripod up right here and start taking pictures of this. So this is my camera setup, y'all. I use a Nikon D5100 camera with a 35mm prime lens. You guys can use any type of camera that you want. You just have to make sure that you get the highest quality camera that you can possibly use. Honestly, you can work a lot of magic in post-production, so as long as you have a decent enough camera, you can make decent enough prints for an affordable price. Like, I've heard of people who use their phones to make art prints, so the world's your oyster. And the last thing before we get started with these pictures is you want to make sure that you use a tripod, because a tripod basically keeps your camera steady so that no hand shakiness distorts the clarity of your image. So definitely use a tripod. All right, let's take some pictures, guys. Alright y'all, so we have just finished photographing our painting. As you can see, I've got it right there behind me right now. And basically we're just gonna take our image and we're gonna edit the photos so that it looks as close as possible to the original painting. So that's why you want to keep your original close by, so that you could reference the colors as you're editing the images. So we're going to take our pictures, and the program that I'm going to be using is Adobe Lightroom. So let's jump into my computer right now and I'll show you guys how I edit my photos for prints. So the first thing I do is I go down into the lens correction section and I check this enable profile corrections. And what you see is that it just kind of fixes the lens profile from kind of curved, this is before, to straighter. So that's obviously better. Next thing I do is I'm gonna crop the picture down. So I'm just gonna crop out all this white. You don't have to go to the exact edge, but and you can even rotate a bit to make sure it's as straight as possible. And we're gonna fix the cropping later in Photoshop. So this is just to get the image colors right. So next thing I'm gonna do is fix the lighting. So you can play with the brightness. The brightness is fine for me. Next you can kind of like increase the contrast to make the colors pop a little bit. So I'm just gonna increase that a little bit. Then I'm gonna increase these highlights. I like to have my whites as bright as possible, so I'll also increase the whites, but not too much because you don't want to flush out the colors. Obviously the colors are the most important part. Next I'm gonna work on the blacks. So I noticed like I want my blacks to be a little bit darker than this, so I'm gonna lower the shadows a little bit and then lower the blacks. So next thing I'm gonna do is increase the vibrance by a little bit just to get our colors popping, and then I'm gonna play with the saturation, but you don't want to go too crazy. Obviously that looks way too crazy. Sometimes like you really don't need to do too much with the saturation. I'm just gonna put it at like 6. So if you press this button right here, you can kind of see what the before and the after looks like. So one thing I noticed looking at this now is I lost some of the color in the yellow. Like this yellow looks brighter than what it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna go in there and fix that. And there's a way to do that. So if you go down here to the colors panel, you can actually select different colors to play with. So I'm just gonna select yellow and I'm gonna change the hue and bring it a little bit more towards the orange side. And that's because the actual painting has a little bit of orange in the yellow. So I don't want it to be too yellow, but I also don't want it to be too orange. So that's why you want to just keep looking back and forth between your actual artwork and the image. Does it look like real life? Basically, your goal is to have the digital file look as much like the original as possible. So that's a little bit better. You can also play with the saturation of specific colors and with the luminance, which is basically how bright the colors are. So now I'm just gonna work on fixing up these colors and I'll get back to you when that's done. Alright, so I'm done kind of adjusting the colors. Honestly, there's no standard way to do it. You just have to play around with it until you get the result that you want based off of your artwork. So I think I got my colors looking pretty great now, and honestly, there is no way to tell how this is gonna come out until you actually print it. So don't stress yourself, that's why you always do a sample. So back to the finishing touches on this. I'm just going to add some sharpening like to the details. So if you go into the detail section, you can just increase the sharpness a little bit. You don't want to go too overboard. just to kind of make it a little bit crispy. All right, this is looking really good to me. Yeah, if I just zoom in and I look over the details of this, I really like how sharp it is, how much details that you can see. So yeah, I'm really happy with this right now. Okay, so I've got my file here, and the next thing we're gonna do is export this file into a Photoshop file. So go to your image and then right click and then click export. Then you want to select which folder you want to export it to. Next, we're going to go down to the file settings. So the image format that I actually do is a Photoshop file, because I'm actually going to open this in Photoshop next. So I just click Photoshop, I leave these. And then at the bottom here where it says after export, I just click open in Adobe Photoshop. So now I click export, and then you can see Lightroom starts exporting it. And then once it's done exporting, boom, here it is. Here's the image opened up in Photoshop. All right, y'all, so now I'm going to format my image to the paper size that I want. I'm going to size this to an 11 by 14. So basically I'm going to format the image down to 11 by 14, and then I'm going to add a white border around the image. So the white border is what's going to make the print pop. It kind of helps with framing as well if you're having a matte made or something like that. And also it allows for the signature of me, the artist. So these prints are going to be limited edition, hand signed. So I'm gonna leave a space so that I can hand sign and number the print. So my signature is gonna be signed at the bottom, and then I'm gonna put the number out of the total number of prints that are available. Right now I'm thinking of just doing 50, to be honest. So this is how I format down the sizes on Photoshop. Alright y'all, so this is the final version of the first draft of my print. At this point, it's fingers crossed. It looks really good on the screen. Like, if you zoom in, like, it's very crisp, it's very detailed. The colors are popping. You can see the highlights and shadows. You can see the texture of the canvas. You can see the brush strokes. Like, these are the things that I, aim to achieve when I make my prints. So it looks great on Photoshop right now. So the next step from here, step number 3, which is to order a sample. I don't have my own printer, unfortunately. Like, I wish I did, but they're really expensive. So I outsource my printing to another company, and basically I'm just going to email him this file and say, can I order a sample? A lot of printers will print a sample for you for free. My printer does, thankfully, so I'm just gonna order a sample. It'll probably take a few days, and then when I get the sample back, I'll compare the sample to the actual painting and see how close it is. There'll probably be adjustments that I have to make. Like, that literally happens every time. It's expected. So you gotta do it. It's a very important step. So this is the end of part 1 of how to make a print. When my order sample is ready, I'll start part 2 on what I do with the sample, how I make the adjustments, how I order the next sample, and then how I get everything print ready, and then how I get the final product ready for my collectors. So if you want to see part 2 of this series, please subscribe to my art channel. I'd really appreciate it. And to all of you, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below and I'll try to answer them. But until next time, peace.